What is up, my ninjas? Welcome to episode 4, part 2 of Joe Talk War Stories. This half we talk about Joe versus, and I wanted to real quickly let you guys know about the first half. I took it down to edit some stuff because we wanted to avoid some drama. We dropped some information, said some stuff. It wasn't anything that we're like ashamed of. It's just stuff that, usually this kind of conversation causes drama. Nothing was meant to, offend anybody. It was all factual, but, we don't want to start YouTube drama. I don't have patience for that shit. Neither do the rest of my ninjas. But that's going up. It should be up shortly after this one pops up. And then we will have this video was the last, or this podcast was the last podcast of last year. There's an Off Our Brains also that should be dropping soon, which was the last one of last year. And we got a new one on the way. So, yeah, this one we talk about Joe versus. We go through a whole lot of stuff, It's a weird one because, we're sitting here talking about what we think, in our mind when we're playing with our Joes or collecting our Joes and whatnot. And I hope that this starts up a discussion so that you guys can hit us up in the comments and let us know what your Joe verse is like and what's going on with your characters, why you collect, what you're trying to build, how you envision the whole G.I. Joe mythos, through your lens based on what you can afford and what you have managed to find thus far, So anyway, thanks for tuning in. Sit back, relax, you know the drill, and listen to us geek out for 2 hours. So, Joe versus. So, we had been meaning to do this. I think we kind of went over Joe. We started going over Joe versus in like the first episode or something like that because we did talk about it. You and me, Steven, we talked about it. But, and we mentioned it in another video too. But now we're going to actually properly go over them. Who wants to go first? Not everybody at once. Wow.
Actually, you know what? I will go first. I'll get mine out of the way because I can't really remember mine. I had like everything. I don't even know what happened to it. After the move, everything got missing, and I think there's still stuff at the old house. So, but I did have mine written down at one point, but the majority it's just in my head. So if I forget stuff or I miss leaving stuff out, that's probably why.
Well, we can always check the video you did with Chapman Films where you went over it. So
you can revert to that.
Yeah. All right. Well, yeah. Hey, go ahead. You have the floor, sir.
Joeverse starts off. I mean, you do have some of the original. You do have like the original 13.
How did G.I. Joe start in your universe? Did you like come up with a version of that?
Well, I mean, like I said, I wanted to keep the canon. Kept it the same, basically.
Yeah.
I guess it's kind of the cheap way out. The easy way out is to keep it just, this is already created, so I don't have to create my beginning.
Exactly.
What to start off of if you don't. And you can always go back and change it. That's the best thing about your Joeverse. That if you have a new idea down the road, you can always go back and say, you know what, it's non-canon anymore. This is my out. So, but for now, it's canon. I'm just going to keep the original 13, how they started and everything.
Okay. So
the majority of my changes are to Cobra Commander and how he came to rise. And there's a lot of Cobra law involved. For the most part, Cobra is actually just a front. It's not really like this big grand army. It's mostly Cobra law. And I have a lot more of science.
What was that again? You broke up for a sec.
Sorry, I'm wearing these like shitty headphones. No, I was saying I have more of like a organic method to the soldiers too. They're not super soldiers, but they're Cobra Law, so they're a little bit stronger than normal humans would be.
Yeah, yeah.
So the troopers, it actually gives the troopers, like when you see them in the cartoons, like they're like a joke.
Yeah.
The troopers.
Yeah, they are.
But in my Joeverse, they're actually something
They're formidable.
Worth fighting.
Yeah, they're formidable.
You know what I mean? They're formidable. So there's that. I'm trying to remember. Globulus is a big part. But now that I'm getting new figures and adding new characters, there's so much more to add.
Well, okay. What are the things?
Globulus is a big part, and I'm keeping it as Globulus hired Cobra Commander. But what he did was, when he hired Cobra Commander, he actually Cobra Commander wasn't deformed. He's actually a really good looking guy. And what he did was he made Cobra Commander Cobra Agent, and
a sleeper. You said
a sleeper, yeah,
yeah.
And he ends up actually working his way up through his political work, and actually becomes the vice president, and he ends up killing the president and becoming president of the United States. And everyone's behind him, and this and that and the other thing.
So it's kind of like how in Retaliation you had actually in Rise of Cobra you had Zartan becoming impersonating the president. So you had a Cobra at the at the seat of the table, essentially, the head seat of the table.
Correct. Yeah. But a little bit different because Cobra's running the presidency for a good 4 years out of the presidency. As soon as he gets voted out of the presidency, then Cobra Law shows its face, because Cobra at the time during that whole presidency was formed as a government agency.
Mm-hmm.
So he formed the government agency called Cobra. Joe was also still there, but at the time that Cobra Commander was in power and G.I. Joe was already there, he kind of decommissioned. So G.I. Joe kind of became its own, I guess it kind of became like the CIA. I guess they're kind of, the CIA is kind of like, but they're part of the government, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like they do their own thing sometimes.
Yeah, they have autonomy, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So,
but what happened,
they're kind of like,
didn't because if you had the OG-13, then wouldn't everybody know that Cobra was evil, and isn't that who they were fighting and stuff? I mean, in your world too?
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. Like the original 13, I mean like the original 13 characters, not like the entire story. Like that's what I'm saying. There's so a lot of what I'm saying might
I see
not
you changed
be exactly what I'm remembering. You know what I mean, off the top of my head. That's kind of I wanted to go last, but I'll go first. Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
There's a lot more details that I'm probably leaving out, but as far as the original 13, that's how it would work. Now, some of these characters would be replaced, and I don't want to take away certain, I guess I don't want to say achievements, but like, how the Saw Viper took out like 3 or 4 Joes.
Yeah, 6.
That stuff still exists. There's certain bits and pieces that do exist.
Yeah.
From the canon. But some of the plot, especially is around Cobra Commander, because he's one of my favorite characters. It's mostly around him. Like if I was writing a comic, my first comic would be the original 13, as in like a flashback from years ago. And then
what would they have been doing?
What's that?
What would they be doing?
Well, they would be fighting regular, like, your everyday terrorist. It wouldn't be Cobra. Wouldn't even be around at that point.
Okay.
So, team, but they would be fighting like foreign terrorism, stuff like that, or domestic terrorism, stuff like that. That's what they would be handling. Stuff that, like the Gulf War, stuff that was going around in the late '80s, early '90s, stuff like that.
Okay, but so. I'm asking because I want to get it. So what differentiates in your Joe verse? What differentiates your G.I. Joe from the regular like Special Ops and, you know, SEAL Team 6 and blah, 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 and all those guys? You know what I mean? Like, what makes the Joes stand out from them?
Well, with the original 13, not much. But it, like I said, it progresses throughout. So,
okay.
I mean, you know what I mean? Like, this is throughout. So, I mean, I can't be sitting here for 3 hours trying to explain everything.
Mm-hmm.
And you know,
yeah.
But I mean, it does progress throughout. Like Duke is, the ranks are also different. I think I had my ranks. I might still have my ranks written down. Completely different too. I wish I wrote. I have a notepad with everything down.
It's okay.
This is what happens when you work friggin' overtime on the weekend, then you have no time to do anything.
Yeah, I know, right? Well, just like I said,
like my rankings are all different. Like Hawk, by the time Cobra is established, Hawk is I'm trying to think. The ranking, all right, and I'm not going to go into all this, but the rankings are basically different with Hawk. Like he's way high up, like a 5-star general at that point.
Yeah.
So he's kind of a pencil pusher, but he's kind of like Patton, basically, what I'm trying.
Yeah, he's got more pull, like a lot of pull.
Yeah, exactly. He's way more pull. Duke is ranked higher. I have a lot of people like Beachhead are ranked higher instead of staff sergeants, captains, or lieutenants. And there's a bunch of different rankings that I went into my other video and stuff like that.
Yeah.
That has a lot to do with how, you know, everything evolves eventually. But what I'm trying to do is just give you a basis of how we're starting off. So if I was writing the first comic, it would be the original 13 being introduced, and we wouldn't even talk about Cobra until we got to the backstory, which would be the next issue, which would be all about Cobra Commander.
Yeah.
So it'd be like basically Batman Year One for Cobra for G.I. Joe. It'd be like G.I. Joe Year One, and then it wouldn't be about G.I. Joe. It'd be about Cobra Commander. So if you get my drift there, I don't know if that makes sense.
Okay.
Because you know how Batman Year One wasn't really about Batman; it was about more Gordon. So.
Yeah, about Gordon. Yeah. So Cobra in your universe, what is their end game? What is it? What is the goal for them? What do they want to do? Do they just want to take over everything, or do they have like a specific vendetta that they're trying to like, you know?
No, they want Cobra Law superiority. They want to convert people into Cobra Law's way of thinking. It's almost like a religious type.
Yeah, like a cult. That's how they are actually in the books these days.
So, yeah. So, and I think that makes the most sense to me.
Yeah.
I mean, what are you going to do with world domination? I mean, if you don't have people that believe it.
Yeah.
You know, then you just have mindless people that can't live. You know, just at that point you'd want to kill yourself. You know what I mean? Yeah, someone's dominating or controlling you and telling you everything to do, and you don't agree with it. You believe in something. Yeah. So they're trying to like take over the world, but doing it in a belief system, I guess, if you want to.
Yeah.
So
at the end, okay. So in the present, what do the Joes do? What's the Joes' goal? What are the Joes fighting? Like what do they do? Present time.
Present, right? Like right now. Well, I mean, they're fighting the battle with Cobra Law because eventually, you know, like I said, Cobra, like a security team, I guess you want to call it. Cobra is their secret service for a while. Cobra Commander, which wasn't his name. His name wasn't Cobra Commander.
Well, yeah, no, I got you. Yeah, I figured. Whatever. But
Cobra was just like his security team or whatever. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
His bodyguard team. But when Cobra Law reveals themselves, which is actually they reveal themselves. It's not actually the Joes that do. They're like, oh shit, we have to fix this, and we have to fix this now. How could we make this mistake? They've been under our thumb this whole time. And at the time, the country is in, you know, the U.S. and the world is almost at war with each other. And when Cobra La reveals themselves, there's this like it's almost like it's basically World War III at this point. Especially when they're fighting a religious battle at this point, which is completely different, like the Crusades almost.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. Is that it? You got more stuff?
There's a lot more meat and potatoes, like I said, but I can't off the top of my head. I can't remember everything. Maybe if you guys start talking, I'll start remembering things, and then or if I find my damn notepad.
Cool. So then we'll just do that. We'll go around then, and then if you got more, you get a chance to throw it in. So Steven, you go. I want to go last since I have my stuff like written down. It almost feels wrong for me to hurry up and just go in front of you guys. So yeah, go ahead, Steven, if you remember your stuff.
Hearing this just like brings a smile to my face, man. It's like seeing how unique everyone's Joe verse is,
Yeah.
But okay, I'm gonna talk about timelines, like decades, because I think it's easier like that.
Yeah.
Okay, I will say this, and I'm pretty sure this is obvious. Anything before the 60s is quote unquote Great Depression happened, World War I and World War II happened, all that stuff, right?
Yeah.
Start with the early 60s. Early 60s, G.I. Joe came to be. Like Joe Colton, meaning he's on his own. He's like action hero,
Yeah.
Like pretty much what you watch in commercials or whatever, the 12-inch Joe Colton, going on his adventures or battles. 60s, that's when the whole adventure team formed together, Yeah, and lead into the 70s. What they're fighting, they're basically fighting your everyday terrorists. What happened at the time? The Vietnam War, right?
Yeah.
60s, yeah.
70s, yeah.
The 70s, we'll call it the Kung Fu Grip Project. Yeah, the Kung Fu Grip Project. Yeah, the Kung Fu Grip was invented in the 70s, right? So. One person can take on like 20 soldiers with martial arts. Even when they're not armed, you know what I mean? Like one person's not armed, but they can take 20 people who are armed.
Yeah.
Like. Yeah, like.
Are you talking about the Joe team?
There you go.
Like Joe members, or are you just talking about Kung Fu in general?
The adventure team.
Oh, adventure
team. We're talking about
the
adventure.
Gotcha. Okay.
That's during the 70s, and then the early 80s, that's when you get, pretty much for the most part in the 80s, the early 80s, you get the OG-13 fighting Cobra, pretty much what you've seen in cartoons and read in comics.
Yeah.
Yeah, and in the mid-80s, you get the Real American Hero team, The late 80s, that's when everything kind of falls differently, and in my Joe-verse, I think there's probably, you guys are probably going to wonder, there's like some plot holes and stuff, but
it's okay. I mean, just tell the like general thing. I mean, if there's something really specific that makes it all stand out and you need to go into details, feel free. But like, for the overarching story, just give us like what you're doing now so that people get an idea, you know what I mean?
In the late 80s, it's basically G.I. Joe the movie, Cobra La comes out of the open. But I decided to make the whole war like World War III. That's what it basically is. Goes against Cobra La and stuff. And, turned into a snake or a cobra or whatever. You get some Cobra troopers who kind of like resisted Cobra La. So basically, some of the remaining Cobra members who want to resist Cobra La, they join the G.I. Joes, but they work together just to take on. They work with the Joes and with the U.S. military just to take on Cobra La.
Yeah.
Because that's how big of a threat they are,
Yeah.
And after that war's over, people got killed. Joes got killed, Like, I would say a good 15%, 25% of the Joes got killed. Just don't know who. But I know Duke was one of them because I decided to make Duke dead by Serpentor.
Oh, how could you kill your boy?
I know, that's your homeboy. What's going on?
It hurts me.
It hurts me.
But
it hurts my soul.
I know, right?
And then, yeah, Duke dies and stuff like that. Since World War III is over, Cobra is kind of split into two. You got one section that's Cobra Law, and the other section Cobra. You know.
Yeah.
Yeah. So pretty much, you got two sides trying to build each other up again. That's why you never hear them again throughout the 90s.
Okay.
So the early 90s, you got Star Brigade, Operation Star Brigade, which they fight against aliens, you know, the Lunatrix. And in the mid-90s, the Van Damme Street Fighter movie comes into play.
You actually are incorporating that?
Shit.
Yeah, because like I was watching that movie the other day, and I'm like I said, this is like our very first G.I. Joe movie, basically, you know?
I know, right?
Yeah, you know, the Allied Nation, I'm going to make them part of, you know, like a subdivision of G.I. Joe. Kind of like a mission that...
Or G.I. Joe. It sounds like G.I. Joe would be a subdivision of the Allied Nations. Because, you know what I mean? Like, the UN put G.I. Joe together. So,
yeah.
And the Allied Nations was literally the UN's military. You know what I mean? It was...
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. We'll go. But yeah, you know, Guile goes against, you know, killed off M. Bison, you know, like how he did in the movie and everything. After that, it's like you never hear anything from that whole incident again. And we got Ninja Force.
Yeah.
Yeah, fighting against, you know, ninjas, blue ninjas, you know, black ninjas, black dragon. Yeah.
Any color of the rainbow ninja.
I know, right? Freaking Steven from G.I. Joeberg will love this part. Because that's it. That was his favorite. That was his favorite thing. Was the Ninja Force, man.
And in early 2000s, we got a reboot, meaning we got like Rise of Cobra Tech and Pursuit of Cobra Tech stuff. Because that's how much G.I. Joe has changed.
Yeah.
And now we go to modern times, which is where my character comes into play, myself or whatever. You know.
So what's your dude? What's his shtick? What's his story? What's he do?
His story. He's basically your typical U.S. military before he joined. Kind of like almost like the origin of Rise of Cobra. You know, like Duke and Ripcord. Like that. You know, like how his team gets ambushed and then the Joes come in. But okay, I'll describe about my character. You know, Stephen Doe. You know, war hero. He's a typical U.S. military soldier, but he's really good. Like, I mean, really good. Like Captain America without the super soldier serum.
Okay.
Almost as if he's not human, you know? Like, he made it to colonel when he's like 21 or 22, or general.
Yeah.
When he's 21 or 22.
Jesus.
Who goes out fighting that good. Like, pretty much more OP than his teammate in the U.S. Marines or whatever, you know? He fights your everyday military, and then one day they get attacked by with Iron Claw. Yeah, and all his men were wiped out and stuff. And the Joes come in and they save his ass, and he wakes up in a hospital actually. And then Scarlet became a general of the G.I. Joes because Joe Colton died of old age. General Hawk and General Flag lives in like an old folks home, you know.
Jeez.
And pretty much
How could you do that?
Yeah, I know.
First Duke, now Hawk sold, and
I know, right? No love for the heroes, man. What's going on?
I mean, they can't be living forever, you know?
It's true. It's true.
Yeah. And for Stalker, he's pretty much doing stuff with the president. He does, like, classified stuff with the president. Like, he's still a general. He's also a general of the G.I. Joes, but...
Yeah, I have Stalker as a general, too.
Yeah, he has more important things to do with the president. And the president's female in my Joe-verse.
Okay.
Is it Hillary?
We're not talking real politics. No, hell no.
I'm good. Mine is Hispanic. So
okay, cool.
Yeah, and I wake up in the hospital. You know, Scarlett comes to me, giving me like my papers, saying that I'm discharged from the military. Fuck, like, you know, like I should be out fighting. You know, because I feel like I'm meant to do this.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, without war, there's no peace, or without peace, there's no war. That kind of thing in my Joe-verse. There's kind of like some psychological stuff in there too, but she says that she's been watching me or seeing me like become a general basically at the age of 21 or 22. You know, and the thing about the G.I. Joes in my Joe-verse is that it's really hard to get in. That's why I like the quote that General Hawk says in Rise of Cobra, you don't get asked to be part of G.I. Joe.
No, you don't ask, you get asked.
Yeah. That's basically it. It's like really difficult to get in.
But wait a second.
Be really gifted.
So like so this the general part. So when you say general, do you mean like a commander? Because
commander.
Because I was about to say at 21, there's no way ever, period. Even if you were a genius, you know, like you couldn't be. There's only so far you could go, based on your, you know, in the regular military. I'm saying, based on your like talent. You know what I mean? Because there's all the bureaucracy, you know, that you have to go through. All the kind of like the belt system in martial arts. Like you have to go from one thing to the next. You could skip a couple, but you can't skip all of them. You know what I mean? Because
that could happen. I mean, I don't know.
I mean, because there's no recorded information of anyone ever like anyone under like 50 or so becoming a general in, you know, like the United States military. Like they're all up there in age because they've all had to prove themselves, because there's that whole, you know, brotherhood thing where it's like, you know, you don't get to just lead people. You got to prove that you're worthy. And then when you prove it, you know, people will follow you. So, no, that's why I asked, because I mean, if this is your universe, you can make things happen however you want. But I'm just saying, like, you know, but,
I'll just say I'll be the first or something.
Okay.
But yeah, because
what really happened was, you know, the president came around. She was like, "Hey, what's in those pants? How big is how big your arm?" He was like, "Bitch, anaconda," and she was like, "Oh God, Lord have mercy, General."
Jesus Christ.
That's what happened. All right, I'm shutting up.
He put it down, and she gave him a job. She gave him a promotion.
No, he brought it up on the table like this. He was like that.
Jesus Christ. Oh my God. Wow. Okay, sorry.
I'm face palming right now. It's okay.
Oh man! All right, continue, man. Sorry.
I'm sorry.
And Scarlett and I had this discussion, saying, you know, like, I want to get back in the battlefield because I want to like save people and stuff. And she'll ask me, "Then why don't you be like a doctor or a police officer?" And all that stuff. I'm like, that's not the real fight. You know what I mean? Yeah. I mean, it is the real fight, but you know what? At least my mentality of my character, it's like out there is the real fight. You know?
Yeah.
You know, we have terrorists with nukes and stuff. You know what I mean? That's the real fight.
Yeah.
Like, there's no point in being a doctor or a police officer. You're going to end up dead anyways if these nuclears go off, you know?
Yeah.
Nuclear. So that's why I decided to join. Then I get recruited into the Joes, but I have to undergo similar to Rise of Cobra. You know, the whole training montage and stuff. Yeah.
Okay.
But pretty much you do all that stuff, surpass pretty much every other new recruit, you know?
Uh-huh.
And I decided, you know, like, Sergeant Slaughter was supposed to be a drill sergeant, but let's just say sick or something.
He died too.
He died.
Sergeant Slaughter in my office. You called sick on the wrong day. You don't have any time coming. Back in a bus.
And so Flint comes in and becomes the drill sergeant, you know, to substitute. Yeah, and I undergo all this training, and he tells the new recruits to go against him, and he kicks all their asses. Oh, there's no way I can take down Flint, you know?
Yeah.
But the difference between me and the other new recruits is that I didn't give up. That's the thing. Every other recruit gave up on fighting Flint, like, 10th round, but I've been going against Flint for like the 52nd round. But
Jesus Christ.
You know, but I guess it's that will or determination or whatever. But in the end, we'll just consider it like Flint wins, but he'll still recruit everyone, you know?
Well, because they put forth more effort than what I guess regular military would have done, you know what I mean? Regular soldiers. You know, there's a point where technically you shouldn't give up at all, but there's a point where I guess in theory, a regular soldier would give up and a Joe would continue, you know? Like that's what would keep, at least in my mind, that's how Joes differentiate from, you know, standard military.
Yeah, and
that's right. Or AKA John Cena.
John Cena, I know, right?
Never give up. Loyalty, hustle, respect.
Ugh.
All right, enough. I'm sorry.
John Cena.
I'll shut up.
John Cena. But yeah, man. Continue. What's the so what is the the modern portion of your Joeverse? What is the conflict that you're fighting? Like, since you said it's all like new recruits on the Joe side with some of the old school Joes on the sideline, what's Cobra doing, and what's their game at this point in their, you know, existence? What is it they're trying to do?
I was about to get to that.
Okay.
No, like, it's all cool, but the enemies in my Joeverse, well, let's just talk more about myself because they'll lead into it feels like so conceited, you know? Like into it, you know what I mean? Like sound like a dick right now.
Okay, go ahead. I want to hear what happens. What happens?
Can I ask you this? Is there a way that you can get the Anaconda story into this universe somehow?
I know, right? Like just mix it in, just to you know, just to switch things up.
Let's throw it in there,
just to switch things up a little bit. But no, go ahead, man.
Like after.
All of a sudden, it becomes a fucking blog on the back of a Hustler in the 70s. Turns into one of those, an article.
How I rose through the ranks.
How I rose to the occasion in G.I. Joe.
So, man,
all the puns never stop.
I know, right? No, go ahead, man. I'm sorry. I couldn't help it.
Stop apologizing for me opening up my big mouth.
Hey, I jumped on board too, but yeah, go ahead, man.
But okay, I get recruited as a captain, team. So we're the Joe team that's like in the news and stuff, you know?
Yeah.
But I replaced another captain because the captain that used to be part of that public Joe team got killed while saving my ass during the ambush against Scar.
Okay.
So that's basically the enemy we're going after. And basically there's kind of like this little story, like there's this female second in command of that public team, right? She's the fiance of the main captain that I replaced. Yeah, she was supposed to be the main captain, but I decided to take that main captain's place because, you know, I'm better suited, because for her, ever since her fiance died while saving my ass, she emotions in check, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Scar
That's
fought. Who did Scar used to fight? Scar used to fight which team? The Extreme?
Yeah. Sergeant Savage.
Oh, Sergeant Savage. No, I thought that was Iron Claw.
Yeah,
it was Iron Claw, yeah.
Iron Claw is part of Scar.
Oh, Agents of Scar. Yeah, you're right. I forgot.
Yeah. But, yeah, and Iron Claw is the main guy of Scar. And, you know, the acronym for Scar is Soldiers of Chaos, Anarchy, and Ruin.
Yeah.
Other soldiers within Scar, like his right-hand men or whatever, he has his own team, but Iron Claw has his own team. But I'm not going to use the pre-existing team that they gave us for Scar. Iron Claw. Think of Iron Claw's team like the crime syndicate of G.I. Joe. That's what it
Okay.
kind of like, pretty much, it's like when you, like, think about my character, War Hero, and I look at their captain, you know, looking at a mirror, almost.
Yeah.
Yeah. Kind of like the crime syndicate. And Cobra Law and the remaining resistance, which eventually becomes, you know, Destro. So basically Mars, I guess. You know, Destro betrays Cobra Law. And that's why he has Neo Vipers and stuff. Cobra Law, they're trying to build them, you know, their whole thing up. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, they're trying to build it up, and now it's like, it's more trouble for the Joes. You know, meaning there's three or whatever, three
separate groups. Yeah, I got you. So wait, did Cobra Law? So you said Cobra Law existed just like in the movie in the 80s. So you mean like after the Joes took them down, now they're trying to build themselves back up?
Yeah, they fled after, you know.
Okay.
The whole, and pretty much the three have different goals basically. Scar, their goal is like Axe or Fist of the North Star. Just like nuclear war, just destroy the whole Earth and start over again. Or they want their world like, oh man, I forgot what they wanted in the movie. What was it they wanted?
Who? What did who want?
Cobra Law.
Cobra Law they wanted their place. They wanted to be the top, you know, species on the planet because they were here first.
Okay.
And they hated what we were doing with the planet, what mankind was doing with the planet.
All right. Yeah. So basically, their goal is basically the same. Whereas, you know, like I said, Scar wants to blow the whole world up, but people who survived are like the worthy ones or whatever. But for Destro, it's more like tyrant or tyranny, or almost like the movie Equilibrium, the one with Christian Bale.
Yeah.
Yep.
Love that movie.
It'll be like that.
I love that movie.
Okay.
Yeah, and pretty much the Joes, you know, they have to do, you know, they have what it takes, but they kind of have to keep pushing themselves to like take out all three of these groups down, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, and at the same time, Cobra Law is going against Scar, and Scar is going against Cobra Law and Destro's Mars Industries. You know.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's kind of like, so there's four fragments: the Joes, Destro's Resistance Cobra or Mars Industries, and Cobra Law. It's like a cycle almost.
Gotcha.
And pretty much my team is just not only struggling within themselves, like I said, my Joe verse is kind of like the newer generation, even though we have some existing G.I. Joe characters in the background, you know what I mean? Like, that stuff, but, like, my public team is kind of like almost, like, let's say there's probably like one or two old people, meaning like wise old elders almost, against people, and everyone else, including myself, are like millennials or whatever, you know?
I got you though.
Like, that's the thing. Like, you have a couple people who like disobey my orders just because I'm some new guy, or I just got lucky to be placed as a captain or whatever. Care what I did during the military, you know?
Yeah, like you got to start from scratch.
But later on, you create that bond. You know, there's going to be arguments and fights and stuff, but there's you know, all that stuff, and there's going to be some troopers that they don't like me, but you can still respect me, you know.
Yeah, but you always have that. That's like basic cornerstone of the military in general. It should any team almost. But so who is your rival? Like you said, there was a guy that's like a mirror image, but he was like on the bad guy's side. What's that guy? Who is that guy?
I didn't go far into that.
Oh, okay. So like, so how much of this stuff did you actually make with your existing collection? Because like,
it was all written.
Oh, this is all stuff you wrote down. I got
nice. Yeah, it was some stuff I wrote down, and other stuff that was like making up crap as I go along, you know.
Okay. Cool.
But yeah, like, and how people like to make their Joes fight your everyday terrorism. Mine does that, but we'll complain about it. Meaning, the president wants us to do like the easy work or the dirty work. You know, like let's say the president doesn't want to sacrifice any military. If she just wants to get it done like in 10 seconds, then she'll call the Joes to do it. Yeah, and then when we get sent to those missions, some of my team members will complain and say, why are we doing the easy work? You know, we should be fighting the real threats, which is Scar and Cobra Law and stuff.
Yeah.
This is just like child's play almost.
Yeah, pretty much. You guys are like the Joes are too well equipped to be dealing with just, standard thugs essentially.
Yeah, that's why I kind of wish Retaliation would like bring that up, or have somebody bring it up, you know?
Yeah, I mean, and then that would it would set the record straight, because so many people think the Joes are just some a regular arm of the military, and it's like, no, they're not supposed to be.
Yep. Yeah, my Joes are like world police, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're kind of like Batman Inc.
Yeah.
And along the way, we'll fight aliens, monsters, demons, time travel.
How'd you get demons in there? Where'd you get aliens and demons from? So yours takes place in the future, like where all this stuff is possible, or what?
Let's say an alternate 2016.
Okay.
Let's say that. Yeah, like when I say aliens and demons and stuff, like they'll encounter those along the way. That doesn't involve Cobra Law or Scar or any of those guys, you know.
Okay.
Like if it was if my Joeverse was made into a series, think of it as like a filler episode or something like that.
I gotcha.
Or just
like it's something that it's not out of the realm of possibility. Like this could happen. This is what could happen along the way. I got you.
Yeah. And pretty much that's all there is to it, and we're just fighting the good fight, man. yeah, like I said, there are some psychological stuff. Like some people in the Joe team, they just want to fight until they grow old and die, or some people just want to end like soon, just to have a family or something.
Yeah,
you know, like there's stuff like that.
Okay.
But yeah, and that's kind of it. Maybe I'm missing something, but I'll bring something up along the way.
Okay. No, I mean that sounds about like it's weird because like when you think about how each of us talking about Joe versus you think about how you played with your Joes and what you made them go through, like what were the kind of stories or the kind of situations when you just picked up your figures and started playing, like what were the kind of situations that you put them through, and it's like, listening to what you're saying, it sounds like you ran the gamut on stuff that they could do, you know what I mean? Like you didn't limit it to anything, because a lot of people, they, especially when we're on like various Joe community sites or Joe Facebook pages or his tank or whatever, people really limit what the Joes can do and what they would be fighting, and it's like they ignore 75% of the Joe mythos just as a toy line, and they focus on only the first 25% of the Joes. You know what I mean? Like that's it. They ignore everything after G.I. Joe the movie and some aspects of G.I. Joe the movie. They ignore it, and they only like all the stuff that led up to it. You know what I mean? And it's just like, I mean, to each their own, but you're kind of like, you got a box of crayons and you're only coloring with one color. You could use all the colors. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's so strange to me when I hear that. But it sounds like you had fun, so that's all that matters in the end.
Yeah, and like I said, I heard everyone to use their imaginations.
Oh yeah. And that's the coolest thing about doing a Joe verse is the fact that everyone is a lot different from each other, and it's interesting. You know what I mean? There's a lot of people out there that criticize other people for a lot of things, but with your own universe, creating your own universe, it's like you don't have those people out there that can really criticize you for that. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah,
because it's your own.
It's yours. Yeah, exactly.
At the end of the day, this is mine. This is the way I see it. And what's yours?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Oh, cool. Yours is this way. That's fine. Yeah.
Yep. I will say though, I hate when I don't care if I sound like a dick or something, but I hate when you come up with something like back when I was on the Joe community on Facebook. We used to have those weekly like challenges or whatever, or someone would come up with some type of idea, and everybody would have to do their version of the idea. Take photos of your Joes, like I don't know, everybody fighting something, or everybody, you're in a losing situation, so take a picture of whoever, and like 95% would take pictures of Snake Eyes, and like 2 or 3 of us would do some like Law and Order, or like what I mean, fucking Lifeline or something.
Yeah.
And nobody would say anything about the folks that actually did something like different from what they knew everybody else was gonna do. But the times that you did something though that like it was unique, and it stood out, and then everybody copies the next time they have a theme. Like it's like, come on, guys. Like, do you have to copy everything? I don't know how many times that kind of shit happened on there. I mean, it's kind of cool in a sense because you inspire people to, want to do what you did. But when it happens so many times, you're kind of like, okay, can you guys stop biting? Like, seriously, come up with your own ideas. Stop biting. But because that used to happen, so like I'd see other guys. There was like a dude on there who had a team, and I always bring him up because I really dug the way he was one of the few who he collected his. You know how some people you see buy multiples of one Joe, and then they just head swap, and they all got the same costume. Like, there's a dude, I can't remember his name, but he has everything. He's one of the dudes out of the Philippines. He has everything, and he does these reviews, like pictorial reviews, that are real short and sweet with the white background. And there's another guy who's on his tank, and he straight bit this guy's reviewing style, like this visual style where he used the same font. He set up the same kinds of vignettes and blah, blah, blah. But anyway, the point of the matter is there was one guy in there who he collected a whole bunch of Steel Brigade Deltas. And then he head swapped most of them. And then he customized all of them even further. So they have the same basic design, but then he would tweak like their sleeves, their gloves, their boots, the way they wear their pants. He'd even cut the Steel Brigade Delta armor or flak jacket in a way that it fit different depending on the character, so he could add pockets and stuff like that. Like, he made them look like a uniform team, but they had individuality. And it was like one of those things, like, not too many people on there, even the hardcore customizers, they didn't do this stuff. Like, they would just keep buying the same figure, or maybe they already bought the same figure, and they would always customize using the same base body, and it would always look like they used the same base body. You know what I'm saying? Like, it got tiring. It's like, give your character some uniqueness, make them stand out from one another. Don't just use the, you know, this body that everybody says is the best body, because most of them use the Snake Eyes version 3 from Pursuit of Cobra. Like, that was everybody's go-to body. Almost all the customizers. And I was like, there's other good bodies out, you know, for if you want to customize. But anyway, I'm ranting. Let me let me stop ranting and tell you about my Joe verse. So for me, I wanted to like come up with, I love Metal Gear. So, like, I like the fact that Metal Gear always has these philosophies. I mean, some of it's really fucking batshit insane. So, like, it makes it interesting that they're trying to tell you that these people in the game live by these ideals and all this shit. And there's, like, fate intertwined into how things happen. So, anyway, I came up with this concept of, like, you know, way back in the day, Cobra Law existed. You know, before early man, Cobra Law was here. Then we show up, and then we start to, you know, figure out stuff, and we start to get to a point where now we're like, when we want something, we've, you know, strive to get it. So we develop our own tactics, you know, so that we can get things, you know, like guerrilla warfare, essentially. This is like the earliest, you know, signs of guerrilla warfare. So even though Cobra Law had been around longer, and they're smarter, and they're more advanced, they didn't have to defend themselves much against anything until we came along. So then over the years, we eventually were able to evolve, and then we toppled their society, and we built ours on top of theirs. So they disappeared into the shadows, and they always wanted to, you know, get that revenge. And that's the bottom line of Cobra, is they want to dominate mankind. They no longer want a piece of the planet. They want the whole thing, just like we saw in the movie. But this is the, you know, the explanation for it. So 60s and 70s, you have, like, it's pre-G.I. Joe or proto-G.I. Joe. You have, you know, the same thing you guys were talking about. There's certain terrorist acts and certain things going on outside of the, you know, the wars that were fought. And the UN needs some kind of response team to actually deal with those things. So they try to sanction a group, like a big group, to take down those threats. And they want to have operatives from all over. So they try to look for them, but they only find 3 operatives. First, actually, it's only 2. It's Joe Colton and G.I. Jane. I forgot where her full name is. I wrote it down somewhere, too, because I had a G.I. Jane 12-inch figure back in the day. So we used to play with them like this. So 60s and 70s, you had those 2, and later on Hawk joined them, and it was a 3-man operation with like a support team, and it was like James Bond type shit. They went all over the world, and they dealt with certain threats, like certain individuals that had, you know, like supervillain type shit, like Dr. No, and fucking, you know, like a guy who has his own estate or his own, you know, small island of, you know, evil or some shit, you know, and they go and they figure out how to infiltrate and they beat those guys, you know, and that's pretty much what they did until the late 70s. And that's when Cobra shows up for the first time. Pretty much Hawk and Colton are sent out on a mission to shut down a weapons depot. But then when they get there, they're seeing experimental weapons that are completely different from all the shit they've been dealing with before. So they you know, set their charges and shit, and then they get attacked by a squad of blue shirts. And I also, like you were saying, Anthony, I like having blue shirts that are somewhat capable.
Yeah, I don't want not like stormtroopers.
Yeah, I don't
trilogy.
Yeah, I don't
they can't shoot a fucking
the broadside of a barn. Yeah, like these guys, they train, but like their Achilles heel is that in my eyes, and me and Prime always talk about this, is like the Joes, and you'll come to see it. I'll explain it more as I go along. Joes always are kind of well trained but under equipped in comparison to Cobra, who might be kind of
they're like Marines.
Yeah, like they have tools and they know how to use their tools really well, but they don't always have like the most amazing shit, you know. Whereas Cobra, they're kind of like they're okay trained, you know, but they have fucking way future tech, so they don't feel like they're like, how the fuck is this guy gonna kill me with a knife? Like, fuck this guy. I could shoot him with this fucking black hole generator and destroy this guy. You know what I mean? And a guy kills him with a fucking knife before he can pull the trigger. So they overestimate or underestimate their opponent all the time. Like, that's a common thing. They're so cocky because, you know, you join because Cobra has everything. That's what it looks like to people, you know? But pretty much the first time when they discover Cobra, they get attacked by an army of blue shirts, a small army of blue shirts. They have like all these crazy weapons and shit. Colton gets injured, and Hawk has to carry him on his back, and they snatch a piece of tech from him as they escape. You know, they blow up the depot, and then they analyze the tech and realize, you know, they reverse engineer a tech. Maybe it was a communicator or something. That would make the most sense. And they find out, like, they find a frequency, and they, you know, learn of another base, and then several other bases, you know, with these same communicators and such. And they learn that Cobra is this huge operation. And this is where my stuff starts to go into the comics stuff, where Cobra, like in the early days, good Lord, it's in the 80s. So in the 80s, the Joes are fighting Cobra. Cobra's doing their usual world domination bit. You know, they just want to rule everything. And they have like the craziest tech to do it. And it's kind of like, if you're an outcast, they take you in because you know, you're an outcast. You don't have anywhere else to go, and it looks like they would be the winning side. So a lot of people are like, hey, I'll join. Shit, I can use that gun that shoots like, you know, heat-seeking bullets. Like, shit, how could I lose if I have heat-seeking bullets? You know what I mean? Like, they want to be part of that, so they join. And that's one of the issues. I mean, and you've seen that in the cartoon where like kids are going to rallies that Cobra's holding, and the Joes are trying to talk the kids out of joining Cobra because they're like, dude, it's not a good idea. You know, it's gonna end up bad in the end. But anyway, the long and short is, in the 80s they create the OG-13. It's a UN sanctioned squad. They answer to the UN, but they only act when it's a situation that like the various governments of the world can't deal with the situation. And Cobra is that kind of, you know, organization. Like, no one knew they existed for all this time. And then they finally, like almost by accident, they figure out that these guys are there. But they don't know how deep their operation runs. But they do know that their goal is world domination. So the majority of their work is dealing with Cobra. Every now and then they'll deal with some random guy like fucking Dr. Doom or some shit like that. You know what I mean? Like some mad dictator who has tech and wants to do something crazy. But typically they focused on dealing with the threat posed by Cobra. And in the end of this era, the 80s, the Cobra Commander that we know gets assassinated. The Joes kill him.
No.
But well, because one thing that you'll see in my Joe verse, the thing I like the most is I love they don't do it as much as they should in comics, or maybe they do it but they don't do it right. It's legacy. Like you'll have characters who will give a mantle up to another character, but then they just turn around and bring the original guy back, and then he's still the same age that he was when he gave it up, and it's like, what was the point in doing that? Like Batman by now it should be a whole different guy.
Yeah.
You know? Or
like Star Wars with all their legends stuff.
Exactly. Like you get old, you do your shit all, you have your your lifetime of achievements, and then you kind of fade away, or some characters die, whatever.
It's gonna happen. It's just a matter of time.
Exactly, and that's the way it should be. To me, I think that's the way it should be with the Joes, because it's kind of like, it's one way you could look at the longevity of certain characters. Like, how could they be alive and fight through every major war? Like, that's impossible. It has to be different people,
unless you're Wolverine,
I know, or Captain America. but like, for in the Joe verse, you would need, like different eras of characters. So sometimes, even on the Cobra side, you'll have characters that it's more likely on the Cobra side that they would use some other kind of like alternative means to live longer, like nanomachines, cybernetics, cold sleep, all kinds of shit. But like on the Joe side, you're pretty much regular people with like ridiculously crazy training, So like you're gonna eventually get too old to do this shit. So someone else needs to pick up the torch. So when Cobra Commander gets killed, I have Crake show up then, like the somewhere in the late 80s, early 90s, something like that. I know that
Crake's a beast.
Yeah, he is.
Fucking beast.
I just figured like I needed a way to, or you know what? I'm fucking up. I'm telling because
Take your time. Take your time, because I've fucked up my whole story. I guarantee it when I go back and look at my notes.
Well, because what I messed up. So Crake, it's not Crake that shows up. What I did was I forgot, because I just saw where I wrote this part. So in the UK they have the Crimson Shadows, and the Crimson Shadows are the equivalent of Cobra. I think the Action Force fights them. They have God, what is his name? I didn't write the damn guy's name. I just put leader of Crimson Shadows. Anyway, that guy. Jesus Christ! Let me look this up real quick. Sorry.
It's all good. Take your time, man.
He pretty much the way they fixed his character, because his character was kind of lame. They turned him into, at the end of one of these early arcs, his figure, I guess, stopped appearing as an individual figure. So they wanted to, when the second season or the new seasons of G.I. Joe, when it changed from Sunbow to Dick, they had the new design, and they stopped. Yeah, I refuse to be like Deke. It's the Deke animation. No, it's Dick. It's DIC. It's fucking Dick.
That's some Dick right there.
He essentially his figure turned into Cobra Commander, right? And they never explained why his figure turned into Cobra Commander, except in this one comic where they just revealed that he took on the moniker of Cobra Commander. So he's the first Cobra Commander that they find, and he gets assassinated. Then the one that's connected to Cobra La shows up and is like, that's bullshit. Obviously, I'm not dead, and this is how shit is supposed to be. You know what I mean? And everything with him is the same as the comics. He gets assassinated by Chuckles, and then Crake shows up and takes his place. So anyway, like I said, OG-13 is in the 80s. That ends with Cobra Commander getting killed. Cobra had, one of the things that they developed towards the end of that time period was they were kidnapping like key people in governments all over the world and replacing them with synthoids. And the Joes were tracking the synthoids down and destroying these synthoid cells all over, the world. That was their big thing. They were hunting down synthoids and stopping them. One thing me and one of my subscribers were talking about, it would be cool if the synthoids, like after a certain point, if something happens and they kind of don't get this like recharge or something, they start to like melt down and turn into kind of like zombies or something, and you have these like zombie looking, half imitation somebody, half zombie looking things running around, biting folks and shit. It would be hilarious. But
kind of like Judge Dredd with Stallone.
Yeah. I didn't even think about that.
With those fucked up clones. That
were... So, yeah, the jacked up clone. Yep, that would work. But yeah, later on, I came up with something else for the zombie thing, because they practically wrote that themselves. The Joe figures wrote that shit themselves. But anyway, they would the Cobra stick was, like I said, they kidnap world leaders, replace them with synthoids, and then the Joes were hunting those guys down, stopping them, and that was what they spent the majority of their time doing. Occasionally, like you guys mentioned, they would take down something outside of the realm of Cobra, but it would still be a threat that the regular military, for whatever reason, couldn't really deal with. Then in each era, too, like, I have, like, in my mind, I always see, like, a visual difference, because, like, 60s, 70s, maybe more so the 70s, it's like mod, like spies and shit, that's the way it was when it was just the three Joes, G.I. Joe, Hawk, and G.I. Jane. Then in the 80s, it's like a real American hero. It's all super patriotic. They're blowing shit up in broad daylight. Everybody's like, what the fuck just happened? The news outlets are being, somehow being told what actually happened, when in reality, it's the Joes fighting Cobra. Shit's being covered up left, right, and center. And then in the like 90s and the 2000s, shit happens and it's more like, it's scary, so much so that you had to have the two different arms of G.I. Joe. You have the public team, which is the colors, and then you have Shadowhammer, which is the behind the scenes Black Ops team. So like a lot of shit goes down with the Black Ops team, and a little bit less happens with the public team. A lot of times the public team is seen aiding regular military, and whereas Shadowhammer just gets shit done and nobody knows anything ever fucking happened. Like, they literally don't exist. There's no, besides the people telling them what to do, nobody knows these motherfuckers are there. But Crake steps up and becomes the next Cobra Commander after Chuckles goes undercover and kills what's his name, just like in the comics. Homeboy super vicious, and where my story changes is he wants Cobra to be the most powerful it's ever been. So he's like weeding out all the weak, and he's getting rid of them, and he's just putting more powerful people in their place. And he's getting mercs, he's getting cybernetic people like Overkill and shit like that, defectors from the Joes, assassins, bioweapons, and especially things and people from Cobra Law. He's getting them to join their ranks so that he could build up, Cobra, and they could just stomp the Joes out. And he doesn't even care if it's in broad daylight so that everyone knows they exist. He just wants to get rid of the Joes so they can run wild and do what they do. Now, by this time, their operation changed. And so they had always been, like I said, attacking different governments and trying to somehow get into the government and control it. But at this point, they had started going into like third world countries, building up the country from the inside with their own people, getting the people of that area to join them in their cause. And then when the country gets a little bit better, who's at the helm? It's fucking Cobra. You know what I mean? So they keep doing that all over the world, and there's like tons of countries that their influence has reached to. So they've been doing this for a while, and it's been so covert that like only the Joes know that this is what's going on with them. No one else really knows. So on one hand, they're being all super covert, but then with Crake, he's like, I don't really care about that shit anymore. I want to stomp the fuck out of the Joes. I want to show our supremacy over, you know, everything else and take back the planet, essentially. And I never really thought about, like, maybe Crake has, you know, ties to Cobra Law past just being, you know, the figurehead of Cobra, the military organization. Maybe he actually, you know, maybe he's from there or something, you know, because you don't really know very much about him other than I think Crake in the comics was like, wasn't he like South African or something? He was from, so, yeah. Yeah, he was from like somewhere that like just.
God damn it! It's G.I. Joe Berg.
I know, right? I think he's either African or South. He's from some country over there where it's been at war forever. Like, so he's just fucking hard. But this guy, the way I always played with you know Crake is no one knew who he was. They didn't know much about him at all. They just knew he was good at killing shit. You know, like he was really effective, really hardcore, and none of the Joes really could fuck with him. Like he always came back. If he left to fight to deal with someone and he came across a bunch of Joes, he would still hold his own and be able to come back. Whereas other guys would end up getting caught or killed or something, you know? But yeah, this guy's he's just bringing everything from Cobra Law, from wherever. And he's like, I'm toppling these motherfuckers. That's what I'm trying to do. So in the end, the two factions have to team up. The Shadowhammer and the Colors, they have to actually team up in a kind of a broad daylight kind of, you know, defend the nation from, you know, this insanity. And they pretty much are scrambling all over the place. Crake is attacking all these key points in the world at different times with these, you know, groups of fucking, I mean, it looks like Years of War, essentially. You know, you've got your Cobra troops, you've got your Plague troopers, you've got, you know, Crimson Guard, and then you've got all the monstrous shit coming out too. And the Joes have to come in and try to, you know, hold shit down and stop them from overrunning everything. What was the other thing I put in here? Another thing I did differently is that you have, within the team, you have the alpha dogs, and the alpha dogs are always the guys who are always the leaders, no matter what. Either they operate by themselves, or they're always put at the head of a team. And Beachhead is one of them, because Beachhead is the leader of the Colors. But
yes,
Duke, Stalker, Flint, Scarlet, Sergeant Stone, Roadblock are they're the alpha dogs, along with Beachhead, obviously. But those guys tend to, like I said, they get put at the front all the time. They're the Joes that I guess set the best example. Everybody wants to be like them. So, you know, when you get super good, you graduate to becoming an alpha dog within the alpha dogs, because, you know, that's what they refer to the Joe team as. Let's see, what else about Cobra? I already talked about the third world country thing. Cobra Law gets revealed because a group of Joes get snatched up during one of their skirmishes or whatever, and Crake wants to set an example by having them like sacrificed and in Cobra Law, you know, like, oh, this is what's going to happen to all you guys. So like, let me show you with a couple of these guys. And so those Joes manage to escape before it can happen, and that's how it's revealed to the Joes. Like, there's this whole other thing, and the whole cult portion is revealed. The whole like inner workings of Cobra Command is revealed. Globulus is revealed. Fucking Serpentor shows up, and in my universe, Serpentor is more of a lackey of Cobra Law. He's not like just some guy who they created to take over for Cobra Commander because he sucks. This dude is more like a herald of Globulus, you know. He's one of the other, I mean, I guess he's a general. He's the guy who, when all the monstrous crazy shit from Cobra Law is unleashed, he's the guy at the helm, like flying around with all that shit. What else? Yeah, that's almost it, right? Oh, and the Joes in this universe, the Joes don't deal with like certain things never happened. Like Battle Force 2000 didn't fucking happen. The Ninja Force, nah, it didn't really happen. Not like the way the toys were. Sergeant Savage and the Screaming Eagles. That shit didn't.
That shit never happened in my universe either.
Yeah, it didn't happen.
These screaming assholes.
What was the other one? There was the DEF, drug elimination force. Didn't happen because you had cops. I know cops is supposed to be in the future, but I'm saying like G.I. Joe is now dipping into the whole, police thing, and it was like, you don't need to do that. You could just write a story where the Joes had to deal with the fucking headman. I think that's what he was called, right? The headman, the drug dude. Instead of making a whole team that's dedicated to dealing with just that guy. Like, it just kind of seemed like gimmicky, and they were extremely gimmicky. So yeah, a lot of those things didn't happen. Like, there were missions where they went to space for something because, Cobra had something going on in space, but it wasn't like them going to the far reaches of the galaxy and shit. Like, nah, that's the stuff that happens that my team, Fenris Company, they were dealing with that kind of shit. And now, like, after we spoke, yesterday, and we were talking about ideas for, that other thing, I'm thinking of making Fenris Company in its own universe instead of making it in the Joe-verse. But for now, it's still part of the Joe-verse, just to keep things simple.
To me, it
just makes more sense because, like, I have a lot of stories that are intertwined.
Because there's so many subdivisions of.
Yeah,
there's going to be subdivisions of G.I. Joe.
Yeah. But, yeah, man, that's pretty much it. Like, modern Cobra, they really spend a lot of time creating, like, unrest all over the world so that the governments of the world are always off kilter, so that it kind of allows them to slide into those positions where they can, replace this guy with, Zartan, or they can assassinate this guy and then replace him with a synthoid on the Hush Hush or something, or they, some of the tactics would be like using Chemical Z on this well-known, part of, I don't know, France or something, or fucking, London. Like, if you were to mirror some of the things that you've been hearing on the news with, crazier shit that happens in fake it's obviously fake, that happens with Cobra in the comics and in the toy line. It's like you can kind of see parallels, biological weapons being used here and blah blah blah. Okay, well, in the Joe-verse, they would have used Chemical Z, and then you've got Airtight and a team of Joes fighting off zombies trying to protect the people. So yeah, they're always stirring up some shit everywhere, and Cobra has cells everywhere because, like I said, they control certain countries on every hemisphere. So they're not like weak and they're not small. They have a foothold almost everywhere. So the Joes are kind of fighting an uphill battle against Cobra, and their weaponry is just going to be insane. Like, I sometimes use Star Wars vehicles that I find at the thrift store as like,
hell yeah,
it's fucking Cobra stuff. So like,
I still want to get for both universes, for Star Wars and is that the clone trooper gunship?
Yeah, me too, man. I was looking at them on eBay
amazing.
Last night.
I love that. That's one of my favorite Star Wars ships.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, I was looking at it last night. I saw a bunch of them for like $60-something. I mean, they weren't complete, but they were really close to complete. So I was like,
that's not bad.
Someday I might have to do that. Paint it red and just fill it with Crimson Guard or something.
Hell yeah! Doesn't the cargo ship remember that vintage cargo ship that you could fit like?
Oh yeah, like 50 people. Yeah,
that looks like something out of Cobra La.
Yeah, easily. I agree. Yeah, I don't get the hatred for Cobra La. I see them as like,
oh, I love it.
I see them as like
fantastic.
It could be like Cobra's final solution. Like, when you use those guys, use the weaponry from Cobra La. Like, literally, it's like putting G.I. Joe in a Gears of War situation, and I think that would be dope.
And I would use the weapons that they use right out of the movie.
Yeah, exactly. And I'd
even use those techno-organic type weapons.
Exactly. And I would go even further. I would come up with some shit that it might straight up be me ripping off Gears of War, like, tickers and brutes and all that crazy shit. Like, that would make it work, It would. It would.
Hell yeah!
It would
I'd fucking bite right off of The Last of Us with the clickers.
Oh yeah. It's just weird to me how people don't see how that's like. It's just an added. If you're trying to say these soldiers are so badass, and they're so awesome, you want to put them in as many different types of scenarios as you can. That makes sense, I mean, you don't necessarily have to go completely, crazy and have them, the Joes teaming up. Like, I don't like Joes and Transformers. Like, to some degree,
I don't like that either.
Sometimes it seems okay, but like even when I played with them as a kid and I would pretend that like they were driving a Transformer or something, it still felt like there's no way a Joe is going to kill a Transformer. It's just like there's no way. I mean, like, unless
they would just squish them.
Well, like if a Joe was driving like the Rolling Thunder, I'm like, okay, fine, then you have a chance. But like, if the Joe is
but still
dealing
though,
with anything
you could pick up the Rolling Thunder and throw it.
Yeah, I mean the larger Transformers, hell yeah, but like it just seems weird to me, like them constantly pairing them together because the plots never are awesome enough to make to I don't know, in my opinion, they never feel awesome enough or epic enough that it warrants having the two teams or two groups of characters or franchises together. But but like with Fenris Company though, I always go in the complete opposite direction of G.I. Joe. Like, G.I. Joe seems to stop with if they eradicate Cobra, then it's done. The Joe team's no longer needed. Like, I want it to be really like if I was to write a movie of G.I. Joe or a series, it needs to be implicitly clear that the Joes were created to fight Cobra. Like, it started out as like we might have threats or we have a couple threats that the regular military can't deal with, so we're going to find a couple agents to work for us. And then it evolved into a team specifically, tailor-made to fight Cobra. So once they do that and it's done, then it's done, Whereas with Fenris Company, these guys are from all these other agencies. They've always been fighting whatever, And then when crazy shit happens, they weren't like, oh, I don't have jurisdiction or I don't have orders to deal with this alien threat or these rogue cyborgs or some crazy shit. They just were like, fuck it, the thing's going to kill a bunch of people. I'm going to deal with it. And, the right people saw it and brought them together as a team, and that's what they do. So, like, nothing is outside of their wheelhouse. If they have to go to space to go kill off aliens, then guess what? That's what they're going to do. If they have to go to the center of the Earth, there will be a center of the Earth to go to, like a, crazy civilization in Hollow Earth type shit, That's the kind of crazy shit they would deal with, Like everything that seems like it would be implausible in G.I. Joe, it's plausible if those guys are involved. But
I love listening to this, both of your stories, and I'm just like, while I'm listening, it's like I'm on Marauder's website right now, and I'm just building new characters while I'm doing that. It's fucking fantastic. I love it.
I know, right? I can't wait for this new stuff. I really can't. There's like new task force figures and the Valkyries. Like I'm seeing dudes like different legs. You know what I mean? Like they don't have the same.
We're starting to get more variety from them.
Exactly. Because I'm gonna
make even new face sculpts. Too.
I'm gonna make Clutch from Marauders as opposed to buying a Clutch figure because he's one of the few old school Joes that I just have never had, and I think I'm gonna finally make one. What?
Hell yeah, do it up.
Yeah, I'm gonna definitely do it.
Steven, you gotta jump on board, bud.
He's falling asleep.
Yeah. I'll jump on board next year once Valkyries are out.
Yeah.
Yeah, bud.
I'll start building everyone from my Joe verse.
Yeah. Yeah. I even have like in my Joe verse, I use the core as like the core are like the military's like their top people. Like it's like the level between the regular military and the Joes. You have the Corps in the middle, and the gimmick with them is that like they're just real tough. They're like action movie tough, like like the Expendables tough. Like you can't. They've been doing what they're doing for so long that you can't just like shoot them and they go down. You know, like you're gonna if it's not a headshot, they probably won't go down. You know what I mean? Like you could blow up the room that they're in and they probably won't die. You're probably gonna have to do a little bit more than that. Like they're the guys who like if they come in, it's kind of grimy, but it will get done. You know, like fucking Dolph Lundgren. Like imagine a team of Dolph Lundgrens from the Expendables. Like that's pretty much what they are. Bunch of big, hulking, strong guys that, you know, they have cool, you know, they have skills and they have cool weapons and stuff, but they're not as precise, you know, as the Joe team is. But they're crazy enough to get the job done if necessary. Because, yeah, a couple times I was, like, looking at them, because I used to use them as the terrorists, like, to just regular thugs or terrorists or something for us to have the Joes take down when we didn't feel like playing with specifically with Cobra. And then I was like, you know, some of these guys actually look really cool. Like I kind of feel bad using them as like just grunts or you know what I mean, like just thugs. So I was like, let's actually make them do something, you know. But yeah, man, that is it for me pretty much. Oh, it's pretty simple. I don't want to talk about the other thing, because that whole story blows all this stuff out of the water.
Should we talk about Fenris Company?
Oh, talk about them. Their whole shtick is how do I
mean, I know the whole shtick.
Yeah.
I think Steven and Kyle might need a character too.
Yeah, that's true. I was thinking about that the other day.
Yeah.
We should put you on. I'll do that then. I'll work up something. I know Kyle would want to be the bad guy though. Like he always wants to be. He always is dressed up as a.
Dude, I wouldn't be surprised, like if his universe is like he's the bad guy, you know, Cobra won.
Yeah, but I don't know. Maybe we could. Yeah, I'll come up with something because that'd be fun. I haven't had a whole lot of people, because what I've started doing is what we talked about yesterday. I started thinking about like where would I put other like some of these other people I know if they were characters in, you know, one of my stories. Where would I put them? But that would be perfect. Yeah, put them over in in the world of Fenris Company and stuff, and the Earth Guard. That would be dope. But yeah, I guess for the people who don't know, I did a video on Fenris Company. Well, I did a video on my Joe collection, and I kind of went over some of this stuff, but I did go over Fenris Company specifically. I think I started with them, but it's my specific team of Joes, and it's based on my love of crazy-ass action movies and Contra mixed in with G.I. Joe. So, like, in Contra, you know, you have two soldiers who can take down anything with the right guns, you know? And I don't mean, like, bazookas and blah, blah, blah. I'm just talking about they have, like, multi-fired, variable ammunition type guns, you know? Spread, heat-seeking, sometimes flamethrowers, sometimes... Yep. You know, lasers, and they just flip and dodge the fire. You know what's being shot at them. If they have to jump off of missiles, they do it. They're just like the most insane soldiers that exist. And I was like, I want my Joes. If I'm gonna make a Joe of myself, I'm gonna be that kind of a soldier that, like, you know, I literally level the playing field. Like our slogan is victory by means of complete annihilation. Like when we grind your ass to dust, it's done. Like if we come in, the enemy is not going to survive. Like it's just done. So the team is, I'm the leader. My code name is Weaponsmith, and I'm kind of like a MacGyver on steroids somewhat. I came up with Weaponsmith because I wanted him to be the dude one of the guys who makes stuff for G.I. Joe. Because one time on the G.I. Joe community, we had that discussion, like, who makes all of the Joe's gear? And, like, we could only come up with, like, a handful of characters. And I was like, fuck it, I'll just make a couple characters that do it. And so I wanted to be one of those guys. So I made I used to make stuff for G.I. Joe, and then I started getting more work out in the field. His background is that he was a ranger. He's the youngest ranger in the history of the United States military. And he caught Beachhead's attention, and Beachhead is the one who, kind of brought him into the fold. So I used to make stuff for G.I. Joe, and they admired the concept of me coming up with like a way out for any situation, just about, And anytime I was out in the field, it could be a shit situation, and my mutant power essentially was to fix the situation. I could turn a shit situation into like a fucking epic victory, just because that's just the way I do shit. My second in command is Gunman, and essentially he's just take a marksman that's kind of a little off kilter, and he's insane with any weapon he can get, any firearm he can get his hands on. If he gets his hands on a gun, it's like ultimate Hawkeye, like you're gonna die, he's gonna kill you. Guns talk to him, and he kills shit with guns really well in really insane fashion. And he has a history. He goes way back with Weaponsmith. Then there's Fix It. He's a combat engineer. He's the newbie. He's like a parkour type dude, and he's real full of himself. So he's trying to earn the respect of the pack, the team. Then there is Boomstick. That's ODC. That's me. And he's our explosives and heavy ordnance specialist. And pretty much with him, he was a former Cobra, and we got him to switch, see the error of his ways, and he switched sides, and he joined our team. Then we have Safeguard, who's the team medic. She's a combat medic, and she's a parody of my wife. Because I asked her if she was a Joe, I was like, what would you do? She was like, I want to help folks. I don't want to just kill stuff. So I was like, okay, you can be the medic. But she's a badass. Like, she's kind of, she wants to retire from doing this kind of thing. So she fights extra hard so that we can get to the goal of being done faster. You know what I mean? Like, she doesn't want to do this forever. We have Arclight. Arclight is the pilot. He's this old Chinese guy, been flying planes since been flying planes. Like, he could make a plane do whatever he wants. He's just a fucking genius behind the stick of any aircraft. And dude has this gruff personality. He's not nice at all. So it's just like, do your job, stay out of his way, let him do his, end of story. So, he's the pilot. Who am I leaving out? Killstreak. Killstreak is our fighter. He's the team fighter. Pretty much he's Yuri Boyka if he was a G.I. Joe. He's, Russian dude who just studies martial arts. He's just like super adept at killing shit, and he's very methodical, and he's very ridiculously, good. I mean, Scott Adkins played Boyka, and that's what I picture in my head when I was coming up with his characters. Fucking Scott Adkins from like Ninja or Undisputed, like that kind of fighting. And this guy has nothing to do with the Arashikage at all. Nothing. And he probably could hand Snake Eyes' ass. Like, he has nothing to do with ninjas. This dude just trained, fought. And then there's like a subplot with him and the sniper One Shot, where their parents, there was an alien attack that happened years and years ago before they were born, and their parents had something to do with how that attack was repelled, how that invasion was repelled. They essentially fought off a bunch of aliens, like an invading death squad, and it turned the tide and made the aliens actually go back. But during our time, because that's why the team was put together, during our time, in modern times, those aliens are on their way back. And someone else who was around during that time, which is Samuels, he's the guy who put us together. He's a CIA liaison. He, at the time he was like a private in the army, and he saw those two fighting off this alien threat, you know, which it's supposed to play into the original Contra, because that's what you did in the original Contra. It's fight off, you know, all kinds of aliens and robots and just crazy shit. But I think that is everybody. And pretty much we fight off whatever threats to, you know, to the Earth in general that, like, the Joes would be too busy fighting terrorists to actually deal with this, or they're not equipped to fight what it is. We actually would deal with it. So, yeah, that is us. But I will work on making some characters out of Stephen and Kyle. That'd be fun. That'd be real
War
fun.
hero.
Yeah. I'm gonna give
Kyle's uniform. It's probably like war villain or something.
Yeah, I'm gonna do it from the ground up. I'm gonna come up with I'm gonna come up with code names, and because I think ODC, you did a different. Did you do a different guy of yourself too?
No, I mean, of me, I think I did. I think his name is like Giggles, because that's what people call me at work because I laugh at everything. And fucking Giggles is here today.
Wow. Yeah, I was Giggles. Wow.
Well, I did make a character, an actual comic book character named Giggles, but he was a villain.
Yeah.
Serial killer, and he would laugh while he was, you know.
Yeah, killing folks.
But he wasn't like Joker laugh. It was just like he wouldn't say anything. He would just giggle. You know, not like
a nervous laugh,
a boisterous laugh like the Joker does.
Yeah, it was more of a nervous thing, like not nervous, but like a, they call that subconscious type. No, it's not even subconscious. He's just doing it and not realizing he's doing it.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. The thing I don't know. I don't like. And I don't know. Sometimes I feel like I'm being elitist or something, but like when I look at customs and I look at the code names and I look at the, you know, like the whatever the MOS is for the character. A lot of people make characters who don't look like they do the thing that they're supposedly do.
Well, because everyone's got to look like a badass.
Yeah, like to the umpteenth degree, and it's like you can be a badass in every field, just about. Like you just got to understand what that person does. Like, you know, Safeguard's a combat medic, so her specialty is obviously she's the medic, but she knows she's been trained. She's good in combat. You know, if she has to drive, she can drive. If she has to shoot, she can shoot. If she has to fight, she can fight. She's not going to chuck.
Yeah, she's not like fucking Lifeline, where he's like, I'm not going to shoot anyone, I swear.
Or Lifeline pre-Pursuit of Cobra, because Pursuit of Cobra Lifeline will gat your ass. Like they made sure that was a thing. Yeah, like
which I need to get that Lifeline, by the way.
God, it's a good figure. That whole wave was fucking amazing. That was one of the few times I saw a whole wave in the store, and me and my wife were like, "Yup, get it." We just pushed everything into the cart, like, "Yup," because fucking airtight. That's an amazing figure. That airtight figure. You know, I swear that someone that's in Boss Fight Studio made that figure, sculpted that figure, because it feels like the Task Force figures. Even the wrinkles, the way he's got the jumpsuit on. I mean, his is an NBC suit, so it's real smooth and whatnot, and there's no like camo or anything, but it just has that same exact feel as, proportionally and everything, as the Task Force figures do. But yeah, that wave was fucking amazing.